You spent it all? She watched his teeth grind. Now probably wasn't the time for her parents' lecture on bruxism. I spent it on the Slytherin House Indigent Book Fund. Not every pureblood family is as fortunate as Potters to have a vault full of gold, and the Ministry has a nasty habit of repatriating the vault of dark wizards upon their death. You expected to die, Hermione said blandly. She expected as much as well. Imagine my surprise. His lips twisted up cruelly. I should have left more Gillians in there to pay for better defense counsels. But I didn't think I'd have the chance to need one, he muttered. Sounds like a bit of bad planning, but at least you're alive, she shrugged. Call it a win in your favor and find a job. Dear wife, I don't believe you fully understand the contract you signed as my next of kin. I managed to read the fine print, did you? What are you talking about? She whispered. The stipulation of my release were that I avowed I had a home to go to and a form of support. I was remitted into your custody. Do you not recall that you were the guarantor of my contract? It's incumbent upon you to provide for my lodgings and sustainment. When the Aurors come to bring me back to Azkaban, I believe they'll be bringing you along, too. Hermione tried to read the deadpan expression to detect the lie. No, it wasn't possible. It was ridiculous that she would be forced to carry this man as her burden, to provide for him. Her stomach soured and she felt nauseous. It would be just like the Ministry to do such a thing. It's not true, she said weakly. As you like. He opened his hand in a supplicant's gesture. I'll leave and we can both find out together. You said you had your own home. You said you had your own form of employment. What do you think you're going to be? One of those kept pureblood wives? I can't take care of you. You can take care of your own damn self. Snape shrugged. As they say, it's all gone tits up. My home and life have been destroyed. Get a job. Get a hotel room and get out of my life. Mr. Watkins from 306 shuffled down the hallway and looked in at the disturbance. Hermione smiled and closed the door. You want me to provide for you? I'm not begging for your charity. I'm telling you to uphold your end of the contract. Hermione crossed the room and grabbed her purse. A quick rummage produced a miniature tent small enough to be a child's toy. She'd sworn that she'd never set foot in the god-forsaken tent again, but had kept it anyway. For emergencies. It had seemed like such a practical thing after all. She shoved it at him. Here. This is me providing for you. Is this the tent I think it is? Yes, it is, she said with false enthusiasm. Snape scowled. There's no bathroom. Make do, improvise. You're a wizard, figure something out. We did. Hermione daftly omitted the fact that she and the boys had not been able to come up with a real workable solution to the missing bathroom, which was just one further reason in a long litany of reasons for why she hated camping. Is that it, then? You're putting me out? Hermione opened the door for him again. As he crossed the threshold, she stopped him by placing her hand gently on his shoulder. You know, this could have ended better if you'd just talked to me from the start. I'm not an unreasonable woman. Severus stared at her hard. In truth, he had prepared himself for battle, expecting a wife, any wife of his in particular, to be a shrew. He pictured the adolescent girl she had been at school, her features just a bit more roundish and pudgy. She'd been an utter swot, ink-stained and insufferable, but not unkind. Severus took measures of the woman. His woman. No, she wasn't the bullying type, and she'd not stand for being bullied. He realized he didn't have much experience with witches like her, and Azkaban had whittled away his manners. In those 6 years he hadn't uttered a single thank you, nor offered a single please. He inclined his head. My apologies, Severus said sincerely. It was very boorish of me to intrude and unfair to you. Hermione blinked. Oh, well, Hermione flustered. I suppose I can share the bathroom here. There's a small terrace garden out back, full of weeds and nobody uses it. But if you put on Muggle repelling charms, it should be all right. Thank you. Good night, Hermione. Good night, Severus. Hermione nodded. Good night then, Severus.
Come, Ushanka, we're leaving.
The scruffy gray cat appeared seemingly out of nowhere, and with a walk befitting a queen, sauntered past Hermione and out the door. As soon as the door was closed behind him, Hermione ran to the window that overlooked the small fenced yard, watching intently as he began warding. The tent sprung up and then quickly shimmered from her view. She stayed there watching the patch of dead grass where she knew he was preparing for bed. At her feet, Crookshanks butted her leg and mewed loudly, demanding attention and producing a full accounting of his complaints. Good night, Severus. She picked up the traumatized Tom and retreated for bed. Severus watched her form move away from the window and wrenched back the tent flap. Stale air hit his nostrils.
Do you see this, Ushanka?
He gestured at the rickety camp bed and makeshift furniture.
Compliments of my dear wife.
Ushanka gave him a baleful glare, her green eyes narrowing.
Would you prefer the streets?
How about Potter's handouts?
At least we're entitled to this.
Severus dropped carelessly on the closest bunk and stretched out his limbs. Granger asked him for nothing for rent. Good, he had not so much as a cent. Bloody buggering wife, she was nothing but strife. All she gave him was that fucking tent.